Donald Trump is on the stage, and he is giving his farewell address.
Yeah.
As he has left the White House for the final time. His family is at the base. Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, looks to be at the base as well, but notably not there. And for good reason is Mike Pence, his vice president. And a lot of other people are not at Joint Andrews this morning with the president because he should not be there.
Right.
He should be at the White House or, with Joe Biden at his inauguration, handing over the keys to the castle.
Right.
And this is something that Donald Trump has been reticent to do. In fact, now has refused to do it.
Yeah.
How big of a deal is it to you that he's completely thrown out tradition over the last, 45 presidents?
Yeah.
How big of a deal is it to you that he's not going to be there today?
Yeah, I think it is disappointing. It is certainly disrespectful. I think it does show character issues with him, but we knew that all along. So, I'm not surprised. In terms of, how big of a deal is it in terms of tradition? Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. Like, the whole idea is, like when you become president, one way or another, you're going to have to attend your successor's inauguration. Whether you served 2 terms and you were in there 8 years like Obama was, or you only have 1 term and then
like
you got
Jimmy
voted
Carter.
off. Yeah, dude. There have been so many presidents in Donald Trump's position that got 1 term and then had to move out, And the idea that he, I guess the message it really sends when I think about it is he is once again, and I guess this is for the final time for now, is putting himself and his feelings and the way he views the world above the responsibility that he has as the president. And I just think it's kind of disappointing. I think, Joe Biden certainly deserves more than that. And again, I want to make it clear, this process, the inaugural process, the peaceful transition of power, as we've heard it 1,000 times on the news, this is tradition. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is how it's been done for a long time. So the idea that you're selfish enough not to do it that way and not to give Joe Biden his moment is just disappointing, and it shows. It just shows low character.
Well, I think today is a really important day, and Donald Trump's legacy is something that is often talked about. This is something that I think, over the course of history will be well defined. And I think what is interesting to me is that his presidency, I think you said to me last night, that his presidency will be studied for generations.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I think it will. And I don't necessarily fall in line with everybody else who says that this president is a farce, that this president, is the worst president ever. I wasn't around for George Washington. I was a child during Jimmy Carter. I have no idea if he's the worst president ever. What I do know is Donald Trump has completely changed the way we do business in this country. Some of it good, some of it bad. It's very easy, as he strides out of the White House for the last time today, to have that sense of relief. It's very easy to sit here and talk about the fact that Donald Trump, divided this country. And I think he did. But it's also easy to forget, things that he's done in, the financial sector. I don't happen to be a fan of his tax break. It created more billionaires than at any other time in the history of the United States.
Right.
The stock market very clearly is his singular win as a president. I don't want to get into the debate of should Obama get some credit for that. Well, it didn't happen with Obama. It happened with Trump. So you got to give him credit for that. But there are other things that he deserves credit for as well. This insurrection last week is incredibly damaging to the history of this country.
Agreed.
Or I guess it was 2 weeks ago today that happened.
Yeah.
Incredibly damaging for this country. I look at the racial divide in this country. It's never been larger. I look at the fact that we had a president for the last 4 years who, if you bowed down and kissed his ass, he moved for you. If you said one cross word about him, you were dead and you were never getting a pardon.
Right.
Right? You look at the pardon process. Like today, he pardoned Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, or late last night. He pardoned a guy named, Kwame, the former mayor of Detroit, who was in jail for really serious fraud and racketeering charges.
Yes.
He took massive bribes.
Well, and I think the first thing that comes to my mind, and this may be just me being a hater or whatever, but when I think of Donald Trump pardoning people, not so much Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, but this mayor specifically, and folks like Steve Bannon,
Kwame Fitzpatrick,
and and just these people who are politically involved and connected to him. The thing that really stands out to me is he's not pardoning them because he's trying to help them, right? Like, he's pardoning them because he's trying to help him somehow. Everything that he does is in an effort to put him in the best position as an individual. And if that means pardoning someone that nobody else would pardon, then he's going to do that, and that's concerning.
There hasn't been a sitting president or an outgoing president to miss an inauguration since 1869.
Yeah, it's tradition.
And I think that speaks to, but it's more than tradition. I think going to the next president's inauguration, in this case, going to the inauguration of the president who defeated you, it is one of the most raw and real indications that democracy works.
Yeah.
And that's why we've seen it time and again. We've seen Hillary Clinton go to Donald Trump's inauguration. If there is no clearer symbol of how democracy works, it's Hillary Clinton sitting up there 4 years ago, whether you like her or not. She sat up there as the outgoing Secretary of State, and as somebody that was a prominent figure in the Obama administration, she sat up there and congratulated him. She sat up there and shook his hand. Yeah. She sat up there and called for Americans to support Donald Trump. He's not going to do that. I don't know how many people realize this. He's never mentioned Joe Biden's name. Since that election happened, he's talked about the stolen, rigged election. He's never mentioned that Joe Biden won and is now the 46th president of the United States. And to me, that's why we had an insurrection 2 weeks ago.
Right.
To me, that's why today, around the country, we have state capitals in all 50 states that are on lockdown, surrounded by concrete barriers and fences. Today, that's why we won't have the hundreds of thousands of Americans who turn out every 4 years for an inauguration to celebrate the presidency and the democracy that puts that president in place. That's Donald Trump's legacy.
It should be a day of celebration, if we're being honest, and it's not. It feels like a day of hey, let's get through the inauguration. Like, let's make sure everyone's safe. Like, let's make sure that this, can just run its course. Rather than when I think back to Trump's inauguration, I remember, hey, the Obamas, Barack and Michelle, welcomed him with open arms. They did the traditional walk down the stairs. I remember watching them fly away in Marine One or whatever the hell it's called now, Special Ops One, when you're not the president or whatever it is. And I don't know, man. It's just disappointing. I guess there's a sense that our country should be operating at a higher standard. It's not that we're better than every country. It just feels like our country was, and again, not from a political sense, but just overall, from just a professionalism stance. When the Obamas were in office, it felt like we were operating like up here, and then Trump took office, and we took like 5 steps down the ladder, and it's just gone way downhill with the way he's handled things. Like, if you think about if he handled things, whether it is COVID or whether it is, like, with COVID is a perfect example. If he'd have just had the courage and the humbleness to say, hey, I'm not a scientist. We're going to just follow the numbers. We're just going to follow the advice of paid professionals who know what the hell they're doing when it comes to pandemics and viruses and stuff. And he'd have just followed the guidance and told people to wear masks earlier and all this stuff. Like, he would have been remembered better. But his pride really hurts him when we talk about his legacy.
Well, and I think one of the things that's so interesting is he is just so unable to admit defeat in any area. The Nobel Peace Prize is one of the things I'll always remember about Donald Trump. He was desperate to get a Nobel Peace Prize because Barack Obama had won a Nobel Peace Prize. And so he tried this relationship with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And it was an abject failure. Like, there's no other way to look at the fact that Donald Trump's attempt to form a relationship with Kim Jong-un was nothing short of a failure. There is no way to Like what he loved to talk about jobs numbers. We have 3 million less people working today than the day he got in office.
Yes.
There's no way to get around that.
And that's one of the that is one of the most prominent facts that people are leaning on today. I've seen that all over social media, seen it on Instagram. Like I've seen it a lot, and you can't get away from it. And I think it's especially, I think it's being brought up a lot because he pushed this idea of like, oh, the stock market, the economy, like everything's amazing. And I think what people forget is the stock market is not the economy. They're two different things.
That's correct.
And I think people really don't understand that. So yes, the stock market thrived. Billionaires became more billionaires, right? But the economy in the blue collar middle class family of four struggled mightily during his presidency. Not just because of him. The pandemic obviously is the main reason, but he didn't help, and that's the point.
Donald Trump said, as he was departing, he said, quote, "We will be back in some form. So have a good life. We will see you soon." He walked off the stage to YMCA.
Typical.
Which is interesting. I mean, one of the other things that comes to mind is he pardoned Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. But there's not many musicians who allowed him to use their music. He has multiple pending lawsuits for copyright infringement. I mean, it's that may seem petty to some, but it is just, it's remarkable to me that he just does not have support.
No.
Like, I'm amazed. And we talk about all these people that turned out for this insurrection and these marches and these protests across the country. The thing that's amazing to me is that they're nowhere to be seen. Now, large swaths of Washington, D.C. are on lockdown.
Right.
Like, you cannot as a citizen go to the inauguration or get anywhere near it. I totally get that.
Whoa, I don't know if this is breaking news or not. This just popped up. Philip Rivers is retiring.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Well, this was a big question that we had talked about. Would he go back to the Colts? He has got, and I say this in all seriousness, Philip Rivers has a huge family.
Yeah.
He has, I think he has 7 or 9 children. Mm-hmm. His wife has been kind of asking him to retire.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's had a good career, not a great career.
Yeah.
He never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Very Good.
Yes, he is.
So, interesting. Yeah, some breaking news there. Philip Rivers has retired from the NFL.
Yep.
I don't know. I back to Donald Trump here, and if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you watching the show. Please make sure you find the subscribe button and smash that thing for us here on YouTube Live. Just search The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y, The Monty Show. If you are listening or watching on a different platform, we would appreciate that. One of the words that's thrown around, I think, pretty lightly, and people don't take it seriously, is disgraced.
Uh-huh.
Is Donald Trump truly a disgraced president?
I mean, I guess it depends who you're asking. In my opinion, yeah. I mean, I think from a public perspective, like the masses in America, yeah, I think I look at things, to disgrace somebody is a very passionate decision, right? So, like, when you talk about the emotion behind disgracing somebody, like, hey, you're a freaking disgrace, right? To get to that point, something extremely negative would have had to happen to get you there. And that extremely negative thing to me is the pandemic and the handling of the pandemic. It's not even that there is a pandemic going on in this country. It's not the physical virus being transferred from human to human. It is how he handled it. It is, and really the better way to say it is his lack of ability in handling it and allowing almost 400,000 people now to die from this thing after you said with the first 5 cases that it'd be gone in a week. He's allowed the country to get in a very vulnerable space. And that is why I think the American public is very frustrated. Because the thing here is, like, everybody says, oh, well, he's got all these supporters and they're raiding the Capitol building and people are outraged. That percentage of people is a grain of sand compared to how many people want him out of the office. Yeah. And that's what happened in the election.
But and I think to that point, and I'm not saying you're wrong, he got 74 million votes.
Sure,
that's a fucking lot of people who voted for him. And he lost.
Yeah, and if you look at the vote totals this time around, both candidates, Trump and Biden, got more votes than than the prior election. So,
Yeah.
I mean, more people this time turned out to vote, both for Trump and obviously more for Biden. And I think that in and of itself may be one of the greatest accomplishments this country's ever seen, because voter turnout has historically been a real struggle. People actually believing their vote counts. And then this time, and this is why I say, to answer the disgrace question, this is why I feel like he will be regarded by a lot of people as a disgraced president, because we had such a heavy voter turnout.
Well, again, I mean, Joe Biden got 82 million votes.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got,
I think it was like 74,
74.2 million. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I think as Donald Trump leaves the White House, I think Joe Biden is doing things the way he wants to be doing them. It is not an accident that Joe Biden did not show his face publicly this morning until Donald Trump got on to Air Force One, or whatever they're going to call it. It'll be Air Force One until noon Eastern. Until noon Eastern.
Because he's still president until Biden's inaugurated.
But the thing that's interesting to me is Donald Trump would not wait to leave Washington because he wanted his last flight to be on Air Force One.
Yes.
He never wanted to fly on that plane and not be president of the United States.
Yes.
Is that petty? I don't know.
No, I get it.
I think it's interesting.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I think no matter what you think of Joe Biden's policy, I think he has handled this post-election situation quite well.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Joe Biden has today not shown his face until Donald Trump officially stepped onto that airplane it is remarkable. And you see that, now Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, the leadership in this country, are going to a prayer service with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
They're going together with him.
Yeah.
And if you look at Mitch McConnell's a very interesting figure now.
Fascinating.
Because his wife, Secretary Cho, left the administration after the insurrection 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And immediately Mitch McConnell turned on Donald Trump. Immediately. Once Mitch McConnell's wife, I think she was transportation secretary. Once she resigned, Mitch McConnell turned on Donald Trump. And what's interesting is that tells you there was leverage there. And maybe Donald Trump was using that leverage against McConnell. I don't know.
Oh, I definitely think it's safe to say he was.
But now that leverage is gone. And what I think is so fascinating is so is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell openly talked about yesterday how Donald Trump was responsible for the insurrection 2 weeks ago. And what I thought was interesting was that Mitch McConnell essentially has said he's going to vote to impeach Donald Trump. Yeah. When that happens, I don't know. I'm not even sure that we need that. I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do.
I do think it will happen.
I think it'll happen too, and I think Mitch McConnell's on board with it. And I think when you look at the far wings of the Republican Party, I'm not even going to say her name. This idiot congresswoman that's going to file impeachment charges against Joe Biden today, who's banned from Twitter right now.
So dumb.
Like this is you want to talk about how you heal a country? You don't file knowingly false impeachment charges against Joe Biden on the first day of his presidency and then say, well, we need this to heal the country. How is that going to heal the country? And that's my biggest question with the impeachment of Donald Trump. How is a Senate trial going to heal the country? I don't know that. I don't know how that's going to happen.
But I also think you have to weigh that question, because I think that's a very relevant question. You got to weigh that question with, hey, do we just not hold Donald Trump accountable? Do we not, for one of the most violent, days in our history?
I think you hold him accountable. I don't think it's through impeaching a president who's no longer president.
Well,
I didn't
even know that was possible, first of all.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the reason they're doing it, for those of you who don't know this, the reason that they're doing it is so he can never run for office again.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
And there's credence in that, for sure.
If you are found guilty in the Senate trial, you can never hold federal office again.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump's, here's the other thing. And I don't know how to weigh this. And this is what I struggle with Donald Trump.
Right.
I believe he's done real significant damage to this country. I think the international shit, look, we're going to we're going to kiss and make up and cuddle with Europe.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
And Mexico, maybe Mexico to a lesser extent, but if you look at the immigration policies that Joe Biden's going to enact today, we're going to kiss and make up with Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? I think we're going to be fine with the Canadians, the Europeans. I don't know about Xi in China. I don't think there's any kissing and making up with, guys like Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And frankly, I say, why would we even want to?
Yeah.
So I think our foreign policy is going to be fine.
Right.
I'm not worried about foreign policy. I'm worried about insurrection from within.
Right.
It sucks that we had to vet every National Guard member because they were worried about a National Guardsman assassinating Joe Biden while he was being inaugurated.
Yeah.
That's where we've come to. It sucks that no American citizen that's not completely vetted and part of the process will be at the inauguration today.
Yeah.
That sucks. Why are we there? Because of Donald Trump's rhetoric. There's no way to there's no way to get around that. Multiple times in multiple situations, whether it was Charlottesville before the insurrection happened, while they were planning the insurrection, there is evidence that they used his words. QAnon, this ridiculous group, talking about how all of their members need to be pardoned. Talking about how Donald Trump was sending them Morse code through hand signals. This is who we're dealing with.
Yes.
But does Donald Trump ever come out and say that QAnon is a false, ridiculous group? No, he never said that.
Nope.
Did he ever come out and say, hey, QAnon, guess what? There is no child molestation happening in the Democratic Party? Did he ever say that? Because for those of you who don't know, the Democratic Party and the deep state, all they do is molest children, according to QAnon. They molest children, and then when they're done molesting the children, they work to undermine Donald Trump's presidency.
That seems accurate.
That's what QAnon believes.
Yeah.
That's who led this insurrection. And Donald Trump's words supported them. He's done incredible damage to this country, but let me ask you this. Do you move on and heal by punishment? As Rudy Giuliani said, do we need a trial by combat? Is that the right thing? Because that's what a Senate impeachment trial is going to be.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you can't just not do anything. That's not an option. I mean, you cannot allow, Donald Trump to just skate on this whole insurrection thing. It's just not an option.
But then at that point, don't you go for guys like Hawley and Cruz? Don't you go after Ted Cruz? Don't you go after, Hawley, because those are the guys that supported the insurrectionists?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do, but the thing is Trump is the poster child, so he's number one. These other guys that are in Congress, I agree, totally supported it, totally have responsibility in it, totally should be held accountable as well. But I just think from a media standpoint, from a just from an overall big picture perspective, when someone says, "Hey, who got held accountable for the insurrection?" Hey, we're impeaching Donald Trump. I mean, that's why I think they feel so strongly. Now, I agree with you. There's real conversation and real credence in the idea of, hey, let's just put Donald Trump in the past, let it go. Let the country take the step forward it really needs to take forward. Give Joe Biden the fairest and best start that he could possibly have with all things considered, because frankly, there are a bunch of folks in Congress and Donald Trump who worked against Biden this whole time to make his life difficult. So I don't know, man. I think it's a real slippery slope, but I do think there is a responsibility there to hold somebody accountable.
Yeah, and I don't know how you do that. I just, I really, I don't know. I mean, I have to think that Donald Trump is going to have a very difficult time staying out of prison. Yeah. I think when you look at... and
I don't feel like anyone's talking about that, by the way, in the media.
I think a lot of people are talking. The state of New York is coming for Donald Trump. I think, and if you don't know this, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars in debt that's outstanding that has to either be paid or restructured by the end of this year. All of his bankers have walked away from him, like Deutsche Bank, who has been the only mainstream significant lender that would finance him, has said that they are no longer his personal banker. They have unofficially requested he withdraw his funds from their bank. Mm-hmm. And he owes them hundreds of millions of dollars. He is going to have a difficult time getting credit from anybody. And when he does get credit from somebody, his credit score is awful. I think a lot of people don't realize that about Donald Trump. His credit scores are terrible.
Like Are they saying that he's like in the 500s?
Well, nobody really knows what his actual score is, but if you do the math on his personal finances, there's a thought that Donald Trump has hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity. He does not. He has millions of dollars in liquidity, but he has massive debt.
Yeah.
And these IRS audits, he's got about $200 million in back taxes and penalties he owes to the IRS. Those didn't disappear because he was president. They were frozen. The IRS held their position on those audits, but now he is not president coming up here in I guess what it'll be 3 hours from now.
Yeah.
He will no longer be president.
Yep.
And the IRS is going to unleash, and I believe that Joe Biden and his administration are going to unleash the full force of the IRS on Donald Trump.
I would guess so.
And they are going to leverage him. They are going to begin seizing his properties. The state of New York has several massive litigations working against Donald Trump. One of them is fraud for the way that he has elevated and inflated the value of his properties, including his golf clubs. Doral, his famed club in Florida, Doral is completely leveraged. There's talk that Bedminster is going to go out of business now because they lost the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
He is in real financial ruin. He is in big trouble here. It is going to take a miracle for the Trump companies to pull out of this. And I think one of the things that he never thought was, well, I'm going to have an insurrection that's going to be laid at my feet and blamed on me 2 weeks before I step out of the White House. And all of the banks have walked away from me. All of my personal bankers have walked away from me. Everybody has blamed him and walked away from him.
Yeah.
He's in real trouble here.
Well, and the biggest thing to your point is he's alone. I think that is a really challenging place to be. I mean, of course, you're always going to have your family and those folks that are obviously in his inner circle. But I think overall, to do business in this world, you got to have human beings that will do business with you. And if you don't have that, you're not doing anything. And I think I don't know how he gets out of all this stuff in New York and like all these things that are leveraged against him. I don't know how you avoid prison time and money and all that.
Listen, you're not going to escape that because Joe Biden is not going to pardon him.
Is Donald Trump not one of the best escape artists of all time?
Yeah, but you're on a different level now.
Yeah, you are part
Donald
of the federal government.
The reason that so many of these charges are at the state level is because Joe Biden cannot pardon him for state crimes. You can only be pardoned for federal crimes. And I don't think there's an appetite to pardon Donald Trump.
No.
Even if they are federal charges, I just don't see that there's a willingness or a desire in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for that matter. Because, Mrs. Monty and I were talking about this last night. The Republican Party is in a state of
chaos,
tomfuckery.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how you unwind the watch that Donald Trump wore during his presidency. There's breaking news this morning from the AP and CNN. Donald Trump did not ever call Joe Biden. He wrote him a letter and left it on the desk in the Oval Office.
So he didn't write him a note either.
He did. He
did. Well, but not the same way that he should have.
He did leave a letter for Joe. Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. He should have called Joe Biden. He should be at his inauguration.
Yeah.
Every president leaves a letter in the desk drawer for the incoming president.
Right.
Donald Trump apparently, he probably threw it on the floor and took a leak on it, but he wrote him a letter and left it in the Oval for him.
It's probably like a 3-word letter.
So, look, whether he gets impeached or not, and he's impeached already, but whether he's found guilty in the Senate or not, I think is trivial.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump has done so much damage to the Republican Party. And the really telling thing is, and it will be the midterms coming up in what would that be? I guess in 2023?
I believe so. I'd have to check.
In 2 years from now.
Yeah.
The midterm elections, which will be 2022, because the elections are in 2022.
Yeah.
Those elections typically go to the opposite party that's in the White House. So you've seen the midterms 2 years ago went heavily for the Democrats. Now the question is with Joe Biden, and he is not running into the White House. He is sprinting into the White House.
Yeah.
He has a dozen executive orders that will undo everything from, crimes against the environment to immigration. DACA, he is taking the billions of dollars that were redirected to build the wall and putting them back into the military. Like, he is unwinding a significant number of Trump policies on day one.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt, that the Republican Party, and my wife sends me a text this morning that says, can we please stop calling it the grand old party? I don't think the Republican Party is in any way, shape, or form anything that it ever has been.
No.
Not the party that I grew up supporting.
It's not the same Republican Party. It is a dumpster fire and a mere shadow of what it used to be.
It's not even the Republican Party of George W. Bush.
No.
It is not the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan. We can stop. Like, one of the things that really pisses me off is people comparing Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan.
It's not close.
Donald Trump's Republican Party, I think, is dead in the water. All this talk about Donald Trump, he's going to run for president, he's going to rerun in 2024. Well, fuck that, because I don't think there's any chance that he can get elected. Excuse my French.
No.
I don't think there's any chance he can get elected, and I don't think there is anybody, maybe outside of Lindsey Graham, who apparently, just cannot get his nose out of Donald Trump's rectum.
He'll flip eventually.
But
he will.
I don't know that there's any Republican senator that is more staunchly supporting of Donald Trump than Lindsey Graham. Now that he's lost Cocaine Mitch, I don't know what he does.
Yeah.
Because Mitch McConnell is going to vote to impeach Donald Trump fully.
Yeah.
And I think this is a remarkable moment in time. Where do the Republicans go from here? That certainly is part of Donald Trump's legacy. If they lose the midterms and the Democrats regain seats in the House and more seats in the Senate, if in 4 years Kamala Harris gets elected president, because that certainly is where the Democratic Party is going,
Yeah.
I'm not voting for a 107-year-old Joe Biden.
No.
In 4 years. Joe Biden, if we're truth-telling, Joe Biden's the guy that we needed now.
Yeah.
But at some point, and if you're a supporter of this Democratic Party, at some point you need youth and energy in a candidate.
Yeah.
And my guess is the one guy that the Democrats fear the most is Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House.
Uh-huh.
I think Paul Ryan is going to be a real force in whatever incarnation the Republican Party shows up with here now that Joe Biden's president.
Yeah.
But there is a clear signal from Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate, that he is going to work with Joe Biden and the Democrats to straighten some of this out. Mm-hmm. Because I think there is an appetite in Washington to get back to doing the business of this country instead of the business of the president.
Agreed.
So I think it will be really interesting.